All right, this is practice problem video for 7.4, solving absolute value equations. I just wanted to make a quick video going through some of these so you know how to tackle some of these problems. Before we begin, let's quickly review what absolute value is. It's denoted by these two vertical bars. And absolute value simply refers to the distance a number is from zero. Distance can't be negative. So absolute value is always positive. Okay, so if you're looking for the absolute value of 3, that's positive 3. Absolute value of negative 3 is also positive 3. Okay, so the answer is always going to be positive. Okay, so if you got a question like this, like what could the value of x be? Nothing can come out of this absolute value bar as negative. Okay, so this is not possible. There's no solution for that. Okay, so for number 1, what are the possible values of x? Well, what could come out of these absolute value bars as positive 5? Well, I know 5 could, and also negative 5 could. Okay, so with absolute value equations, either you're going to have no solution, like like this one we already had. This would be no solution. That's your answer, or you're going to have two answers. Okay, so a lot of students on their first attempt on the test, we're just giving one answer. There is always going to be two answers unless it's no solution. Okay. Number 2, what could the values of r be? Well, it could be 1/2, or it could be negative 1/2. All right, now we're getting into some more difficult ones. So I'm going to throw up these steps here if you like the steps. We've got steps to solving absolute value equations. Number 1, move everything outside the absolute value bars to the other side. Kind of step 1.5, I'm going to say, is check to see if there's a solution. You got to make sure it's set to a positive number. If it's set up to a negative number, it's going to be no solution. All right, then step 2, we set whatever's inside the absolute value bars equal to itself and its opposite. It's kind of a mouthful, but we'll go through that a little bit more with this one, and then we solve both equations. All right, so let's look at number 3 here. Step 1 is already done. Okay, there's nothing outside the absolute value bars. Okay, so I can check to see if there's a solution. 4 is positive, so there will be a solution. Okay, so now what we do is we set whatever's inside the absolute value bars equal to itself and its opposite. Okay, so what I do is I just say we're going to set up two equations. The first equation, we simply remove the bars. Okay, the second equation, it's the same as the first equation. We just make it to equal to the negative answer. Okay, so instead of positive 4, now it's negative 4. All right, and then we solve both equations. And this should make sense, right? Because what can come out of here would be positive 4 or negative 4, because both would come out of the absolute value bars as positive 4. Okay, so that's why that should make sense. All right, so now from here we just solve both equations. So I'm going to subtract 7 on both sides. Left with 3p is equal to negative 3. Divide by 3. Left with p is equal to negative 1. Right, so there's one value of p. And then I'm going to solve the other equation. Subtract 7, subtract 7. Left with 3p is equal to negative 11. Divide by 3, divide by 3. P is equal to negative 11 over 3. Okay, so those are your two answers, two options for P. All right, why don't I stick with number 5 so we can still see the steps here. All right, so step 1, move everything outside the absolute value bars to the other side. Okay, so that means this 4 and this negative 2 have to go away. And so remember, we're going to be solving this, that's not very bad, in reverse GEMDAS order, right? So we're going to be working kind of backwards. All right, so what I have here, This 4 is like it's multiplying because there's no symbol in between, right? Just like if we have like 2a, this is really 2 times a. So if there's no symbol in between, we know that means multiply. So what I have is multiplication and I have subtraction. So I want to do inverse operations or opposite operations in inverse or reverse GEMDAS order, okay? So that means I want to get rid of this negative 2. So I'm going to do the inverse operation and add 2. Okay, and if I do it to one side of an equation, I have to do it to the other. All right, so now I'm left with 4 times the absolute value of 2k plus 3 is equal to 8. All right, and now I want to get rid of this 4. Do so by dividing 4. All right, so that's equal to 1. So that's not going to change anything. So it's essentially eliminated. So 2k plus 3, absolute value of 2k plus 3 is equal to 2. All right, so now I've just done step 1. I've moved everything outside the absolute value bars. Now I can check if there's a solution. That's at step 1.5. This 2 is positive, so there will be a solution. All right, so now I'm going to set up 2 equations and solve them both. The first one, I simply remove the bars. Okay. Second one is the same as the first one. We just make the answer negative. Okay. And then we solve both equations. Okay, so I'm going to subtract 3 on both sides. 2k is equal to negative 1. Divide by 2. K is equal to negative 1/2. And I'm going to add 3 on this side. Oops, I'm not going to add 3. Sorry. I'm going to subtract 3 on this side. And I'm left with 2k is equal to negative 5. Divide by 2, divide by 2. Left with k is equal to negative 5 over 2. And there's your 2 options for k. All right. All right, number 4 looks pretty straightforward. Just got to get rid of that 3 first, then set up 2 different equations. You're going to get rid of that 3 by dividing, and then set up 2 equations. All right, number 7 looks pretty straightforward, so you guys can try that. Number 8, there's a fraction, but you can use your calculators. I do want to address this here. So a lot of students will make this mistake, and here, let me get these back up here, the steps here. They want to move everything outside the absolute value bar. So they'll say, oh, negative 8 minus 9 is negative 17, and maybe they'll add this or divide it. But really what I have here is this negative 9, there's no symbol in here, right? In between these two things, between the absolute value bar. So this right here would mean multiplication. Okay, so what we have here is multiplication, and then, you know, subtracting 8 or adding a negative 8. Okay, so we have to keep those separate. So what you want to do here is first get rid of the 8. I'm going to do so by adding 8. Okay, so on this side it's going to cancel out, and so I'm left with negative 9 times the absolute value of 4p plus 2 is equal to negative 27. All right, now I can get rid of that negative 9. Remember, this is multiplication, so to get rid of this, we can't just add 9. We have to divide by negative 9. All right, now we divide by negative 9 on the other side. This side cancels out. I'm just left with the absolute value of 4p plus 2 is equal to 3. And that's negative 27 divided by negative 9. Negative divided by a negative is a positive. So now step 1.5, check to see if there's a solution. So now this is positive. So now we can see that there will be 2 solutions. So it's really important that you do, this step 1.5 after you do step 1, because if you were to look at this negative 35 and say, oh, that's no solution, that would be wrong. Okay. So Now, step 1.5, check if there's a solution. There is. So now we're going to set up two different equations. First one, simply remove the bars. Second one, keep it the same as the first equation. Just make the answer negative. And then you solve both of those equations, right? Subtract 2 on both sides, divide by 4. All right. The rest of these are pretty straightforward. I think you guys should be able to get these done. Just remember, like problems with 16 and 17, I can't add these together. Can't combine those. I need to get rid of the negative 1 and then get rid of the 4. So I would want to add 1. If I do it to one side, I gotta do it to the other. And then once you do that, all that, update the problem, then you're going to need to get rid of this 4 by dividing. Okay? Same thing with 17. We want to add 6, right? And then you're going to divide by negative 2. Okay? All right, I think I've helped you out pretty good with these. If you're still lost on these, and it's pretty common for students to get a little confused by these, so if you're still lost with these, tell your advisor to give me a call and I'll stop down in your classroom or Google Meet with me and we can go through some more of these problems. All right, good luck.